Episode 1 just dropped, and here is like a breakdown summary of episode 1, relatively short. So we start off seeing a man walking in the rain. I presumed it was Andor, it turns out it was. He enters a bar after getting searched, and in the bar there are two men. These men speak to Andor, and then a woman comes over. The men get jealous of Andor speaking to this woman, and then the woman basically asks why Andor is here. He says he's looking for work. They have a little conversation, then Andor opens up and says he's actually looking for his sister. As Cassian leaves, he hears the two men in the bar behind him, and they pull out a gun. Cassian obeys what they want to say and says he has credits on him. The men search him, but as they search his pocket, Cassian retaliates and knocks one of the men out, or so he thought. He then steals the gun, checks back, and it turns out one of the men is dead. The other man pleads for mercy, but Andor puts a blaster bullet through his head. We then cut to a droid going about his day. He enters a building and delivers something to a sleeping Cassian Andor. We are then cut to Andor's dream of him as a teenager, and a young girl hugs him for reassurance. We then cut back to Andor in the present day, and the droid explains that there were visitors at the house. Cassian asks the droid to tell nobody he saw him, and Cassian packs his things before leaving the house and entering a new city. We see workers exiting a building. One of them interacts with Cassian, tells him he went to his house last night. Andor tells him what he should tell if anyone asks where he was, and the man leaves. We cut to Morlana 1 now and see an old police officer in his office with an inspector entering and alerting him about a murder. The more senior officer realises that this is going to be a lot of work, so he just fakes the news basically and pretends it was just a fight ended badly, not a real murder. The old man leaves and he says he's going to do something with the Imperials. We then cut back to Cassian Andor, who enters a shop. He's told by the owner or the man at the desk that she is in the yard. Unsure who he's talking about at this point. Cassian goes there and sees Bix. He tells Bix he's got something that he wants to sell her secret mystery friend. Bix says when they'll be available, and Andor says that's too far away. Bix asks what it is he's trying to sell, and Andor doesn't tell her. She then asks again, and Andor says there's an NS9 Starpath unit. Vector crystals are still intact. Andor finds out that Bix is in a new relationship with the shop worker / owner Tim, and then makes Bix promise that she will not tell Tim what Andor wanted. We then cut back to Cassian's teenage scene where all the children are huddled around, and Cassian says something in Kenari, which is basically the language they spoke to a young girl before walking, sitting down, and the children speak. We then cut back to the office where the inspector stands, appearing to be checking some sort of CCTV. They notice something and the inspector orders them to find out what or who it was. We then cut back to Andor and he runs into a man asking for a deposit. He then sees one of his old friends and realizes just how bad things have got. Andor then leaves them, much to their annoyance, and we see Bix exiting the store, but Tim is following without her knowing. Luckily, Tim falls over and loses her. Bix then walks down an alleyway before entering a store and asks for a Bidun mesh tech filter. The man tells her to look in the yellow racks in the back, and she messes with some electronics, and we cut back to the inspectors and the man asking for information on the murder. There is none. We now cut to the shipyard where Cassian is approached by a man called Pegler. Cassian changes the chip logs in the ship. Pegler tells Cassian to go and never come back. We then cut back to Cassian as a teenager, and the girl approaches him again, and half the kids begin to move, half stay behind, and then the episode ends. Episode 1 was actually really good. It got straight in the action. I really liked it. I'm going to make a full review, and there'll be breakdowns on episode 2 and 3 later. Lots of content, and hopefully you enjoyed it.